But here it is. Israeli ambassador flees as Jordanians plan million-man march. And again, you cross-reference that news. Here's the Iranians. Here's the Israelis. Yep, Israeli officials, Jordan hanging by a thread. And there's a more sophisticated way to look at this. The globalists knew that as they destroyed the dollar worldwide that other currencies are based in, as commodities went up, as food prices went up in countries where people spend more than half their money on food, that people will riot when they're starving. And so they, at the key point, with their actuaries and predictive computer systems and Google, which they admit is a literal crystal ball now, a future predicting system in mass movements, they deployed the State Department trained Egyptians to try to organize and control it. And then act like they're friends with the Muslim Brotherhood and all that. But no, it's even more sophisticated than that. Some sophisticated people that think they know what the globalists are doing but can't believe that actually start a worldwide revolution and war say, oh, well, they just tried to take control of revolutions they knew were about to happen. They saw the dominoes about to be knocked over, so they knocked them over. No, that's what mid-level people in the CIA and others are told. If you look at the larger history and stratagem and gambit and deception and signature of this dark logic, you understand what's really happening here. And that is they are directly putting Muslim Brotherhood, a.k.a. al-Qaeda, a.k.a. Saudi Arabian jihadis in everywhere, as they did in Afghanistan, as they did in Serbia. And again, they're going to do that here using the same skeleton key, the magic key of al-Qaeda. They are the magic skeleton key that can open any door for the globalist until we break that key by exposing false flag terror and stage terror and manufactured terror, synthetic terror, provocateur terror, different variants and combo variances, the very rare, truly organic, asymmetrical warfare, which is then called terror. Somebody getting fed up and, going and stabbing their neighbor or whatever. Similar to, somebody killing their boss or whatever. Just going postal. Palestinians who are used like slaves in many cases go postal sometimes. Now, continuing, Libya could fall into the hands of extremists. NATO warns. Reuters. In fact, we'll give you a document cam shot of that. Libya could fall in the hands of extremists. NATO warns. The warning came in an exclusive interview with the Daily Telegraph as Muammar Gaddafi's loyalist forces stepped up a fight back on 3 fronts. And then it goes into the al-Qaeda people. Here's another one out of the San Jose Mercury News. Islamists' growing sway raises questions for Libya. And see, they know you're not sophisticated. The general public isn't. That's why Bush could claim that Iran is Sunni when it's a Shiite country and arch enemies with it. That's how they get away with this. And so they're like a couple weeks into this now, claiming that, the evil one Gaddafi's been overthrown when he hasn't been overthrown. I expected they took a year or so. No. They're not even doing that. They're immediately saying al-Qaeda has heat-seeking missiles and has taken over Tripoli. As NATO gives them billions of dollars and weapons, they simultaneously say, now we've got to take your rights away because al-Qaeda is in Libya. And again, you understand the mindset of this. Listen to Bloomberg Financial a couple days ago in the morning, and they were saying, I don't think the implosion in Europe will affect our stock market too much. Americans don't, most of them don't travel, don't have passports, and most of them don't even know where Europe is. And they all began cackling. Not in disgust, not in horror. It was these people are they're animals, are to be harvested. Let me tell you something. When you dumb people down and revel in it, it blows back on you. Who wants to live like this? They do not want to lift people up. And you see it across the board. Even a McDonald's manager will get off on being mean to the people under him. It is the most hollow, vapid, broke back mindset I could ever imagine. I mean, just to watch the sheer lunacy. And I go on radio shows and I say, well, the underwear bomber was got on the plane by the U.S. government. All these bombers were protected. The hijackers were led into the U.S. and protected and trained at bases. And the host will go, I know that's true, but I still can't believe 9/11's an inside job. I mean, what do you mean? I mean, if you were paying for the house of 3 different bank robbers in different parts of the country, the cops would come and arrest you and would know that you were involved, and they would dig out the evidence under questioning, and you'd go to jail for aiding and abetting and supplying a bank robbery operation. I mean, right there, everywhere. In every case, you've got drugged shoe bombers and underwear bombers. Everybody describes drooling, led on planes, in every case, by British and U.S. government. And then, the moron wakes up and tries to light his shoe on fire with plastic explosive. You don't light it, you run an electrical charge through it. And then we've all got to take our shoes off. And now they say, I told you this was coming. Now they say there's going to be intestine bombs, so they need chest x-rays. Now they say there's going to be breast bombs, so they need to do a breast scan. Folks, this isn't going to stop. And when bombers blow up a shopping mall, you're going to have TSA in it. And I told you this years ago, they're now announcing that's the case. And when they have an event at a football game, this is the takeover of all of society. It'd be like if somebody murdered a kid out in a cornfield. Now every cornfield in America has got to have armed guards at it because somebody else might kill somebody in a cornfield. See how there's no logic to this from the perspective of keeping you safe. There's total logic when you realize you're the target. Then everything is crystal. Here's another one. Libya's new leaders bask in Western support, French news agency. So while they're saying they're al-Qaeda and, oh my gosh, they've got shoulder-fired heat seekers, we are being told to be afraid, be very afraid, but we're supporting them. And when I say we, the folks that have hijacked our nation. Here's another one, Washington Post. Loyalist heartland stands its ground against Libyan revolution. It's not a revolution. It's a rebel force with Western backing. I mean, just call it what it is. PLO official. Palestinians, Israelis must be totally separated. Israel warns of harsh consequences of Palestinian UN bid. Yeah, no kidding. And you're like, good, get rid of Israel. Folks, Israel isn't going anywhere, and they got 400, 800 nuclear weapons, cruise missiles, everything. People are like, good, let's just have a nuclear war. I know, people like to fall into globalist traps. I understand it's fun to get conned. This whole Arab Spring that's been set in motion is the beginning of World War III, mark my words, and it's the beginning of total collapse of society, and out of it, a worldwide tyranny. And what's going to happen is, once they let the nationalistic Islamicists take over all these countries, the globalists are going to have sanctions on them, bomb the daylights out of them, and then just leave these countries all in squalor. Sure, put the Albert Pike Third World War quote on screen if you'd like. The Third World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences caused by the agentur of the Illuminati between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world. The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam, the Muslim Arabic world, and the political Zionism, the state of Israel, which again hadn't been set up yet, mutually destroy each other. Meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on the issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, spiritual, and economical exhaustion. We shall unleash the nihilist and the atheist, which they now did. This was written in 1878. And we shall provoke a formidable social cataclysm, which in all its horror will show clearly to the nations the effect of absolute atheism, origin of savagery, and the most bloody turmoil. Then everywhere the citizens obliged to defend themselves against a world minority of revolutionaries will exterminate those destroyers of civilization, and the multitude, disillusioned with Christianities, whose deistic spirits will from the moment be without compass and direction, anxious from a ideal but without knowing where to render its adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out into the public view. This manifestation will result from the general reactionary movement which will follow the destruction of Christianity. Actually going with this story more and more in the controlled media that aliens are going to attack us, that we don't pay Al Gore and Lord Rothschild money. I'm going to be getting into that. Also, there's more and more media out there saying that aliens are going to invade. Absolute baloney. We're going to be breaking that down and going into Fletcher Prouty back in the 70s in his book, The Secret Team, former head of Black Ops in the Pentagon, saying that he was getting intel that they were looking at a fake alien invasion in the future. All right, continuing here. It's in the news that, well, in Michigan and other states, they're going to start putting your children in the government training camps in a database if they're 1 pound overweight, and the government decides what's overweight. They've shown that their little actuary measurements, if you're a husky child, even though you're in perfect shape, they're going to consider you fat and begin fining parents. And in some areas, they're moving to take people's children. And, of course, there's another report here. Every other American obese by 2030. It's the GMOs and other things that are really linked to this. So just incredible to have that nanny state information. That's out of WLS 890 radio is reporting on an attempt to combat Michigan's childhood obesity. Governor Rick Snyder announced Wednesday. And again, this is how they're going to start this entire program. So we're going to be breaking that down. I'm going to get into the economic news and the world news, but we got Mark Moreno coming up. But let's start going to your calls right now. Barry in St. Louis, Missouri, you're on the air. Welcome.
Hey, Alex, how you doing today?
Good.
Hey, I want to thank you for all that you continue to do. If I were wealthy, I'd fund your operation in a big way, but I'm not wealthy. If I were famous, I'd speak out publicly about everything you have exposed, but I'm not famous, so I help out by being a Prison Planet TV member, buying and copying, and giving away your DVDs. And I'm sure there are a lot of us who do that.
No, we couldn't have done any of this, but the big thing you can do is just spread the word about the broadcast.
I want to make a challenge. You've mentioned that there's a lot of famous people who have contacted you stating that they're awake. I'd like to challenge them, anyone actually, who is awake to our awful situation, mostly because of your efforts, to man up and join the fight. You know, the final paragraph of the Declaration of Independence says this: we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Many of the famous people who have contacted you work in Hollywood. And if these people are listening right now, I would ask them to please remember that all of you people are paid as well as you are because we pay good money to see you on the screen, big and large, or small and large. I'd like to suggest that you do all three of these things, but if you can or won't, at least do the last one. The first one is publicly come out and expose the globalists in any or all their plans anytime you can. Number two, fund Alex's operation in a substantial way. And if you can or won't do those, at least publicly support Ron Paul for president. Because as more people hear that, yeah, I'm going to vote for Ron Paul, then all of a sudden, hey, maybe he can win. It's time to give back to your fans and this country what you have been given for sometimes for decades.
Well,
so
Barry, your check is in the mail. You know, we do a money bomb once a year that really has pushed us over the top to be able to buy equipment and hire more people. And we're going to do one coming up in the middle of next month because I've done the finances and we do need it to really go to the next level. But the problem is so many famous people that call me, I talk about that to illustrate how many people are awake. But Hollywood and other systems are really under an oppressive eye. I mean, if the globalists send police to somebody's house that does a painting of a burning bank building, what do you think they'll do to Hollywood folks? So that's why they intimidate them. They do things to them. But we have no future if we don't stand up and speak up now. I agree with you. Visit Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the site, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.